Okay, back on the record on People versus Maverick Fisher. Defendant and counsel, the interpreters, and the jury are all present. Mr. Fisher, please return to the witness stand.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Fisher. Good afternoon, Mr. Fisher.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
When you were talking to Detective Kreitzer in San Diego, you were describing your personality versus Mr. Whitaker's. For sure. Before you met Mr. Whitaker, you had done a lot of traveling throughout the world, correct?
Not all over the world, no.
You've been to Europe, Iceland, Norway, Mexico. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Belize, I believe you have been to.
Yes.
And you would travel pretty much on your own a lot of the times?
There were some trips with my girlfriend Emily. And other trips.
I had a dirt bike
partner with a partner.
Some of the time I was alone.
Some of the time I was alone.
And you were able to basically take care of yourself when you were in these other countries, right?
Yes.
Yes.
You traveled a lot in South America, including Mexico.
I never went to South America.
Okay. So Mexico, you've been to Mexico several times, correct?
2 times.
Now, when you, one of the differences you talked about between Grant and you was that you felt like you could just take a sleeping bag and sleep anywhere.
Yes, that's right.
And Grant liked to go to campgrounds.
Yes, that's correct.
So you would feel perfectly comfortable, popping your sleeping bag in the middle of a forest or other type of place and just sleeping out in the open.
Yes.
You said after the argument that you had with Grant that he stormed off. I guess that's a yes, correct?
Yes.
And this was when you were on the riverbed or in that area near the river?
Yes.
And did he go in any particular direction?
All I can recall is he went towards the right. To the right.
And where did you go?
I went back towards the tent to the left.
And about what time was this? Was it dark yet?
No, it was still twilight at that point.
Did you or Grant have any type of camping light or flashlight with you?
Grant had the use of it on his phone.
What about your phone?
It was a cheap phone, so I didn't really use it, the light off of it.
It did have a light to it though, if you needed it.
I don't know.
Well, when you turned it on, did it light up?
You mean from the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
That provided some light, didn't it?
Yes.
So you were, what did you do at the campsite when you came back after the argument?
Basically, I kind of walked around and then I went back to the river area again.
Did you see Grant there?
No, I didn't.
And then at what point did you go back to the campground?
When it became dark enough.
And did you, when you got back to the campground, was Grant there?
No, he wasn't.
So what did you do?
When it got really dark, then I got into the tent and lied down, but prior to that I was just sitting.
So how long would you say, did you look at your phone at any time for the time, what time it was?
No. It wasn't, the time was not aligned to the correct time at that time.
On your phone?
I did look, but I think it said like 2 p.m.
Okay. So when did do you have any idea when it started to get dark? Or what time that would have been?
Maybe 10 p.m.
At some point, did you go into the tent?
Yes.
And was that around 10 p.m. or a little bit after that?
I don't know. It could have been.
Now, at this time, were you upset about the argument that you had with Grant?
I was nervous, upset, maybe a little bit scared. Nervous, a little upset, all of those feelings all at once.
So you continued, well, you went into the tent and you stayed in the tent, right?
I lie down, yeah.
And your sleeping bag was right in front of the opening of the tent.
Yes, right near the zippered areas.
So somebody coming into the tent would have to either walk over you or somehow avoid stepping on you, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's the way you always slept? That was the position you always had when you were camping with Grant?
Yes.
And Grant's sleeping bag was in the left-hand corner.
I'm not sure if you would call it the left corner or the right corner. I would say it was the furthest point away from the zipper opening.
Okay. Now, you had some apprehension about Grant, what Grant might do when he returned to the tent?
Could you repeat that question, please, again?
Did you have some apprehension about what Grant might do when he returned to the tent?
Yes, a little. Yes, a little.
Did you move your sleeping bag to the opposite corner in the back?
No.
So Grant would, coming into the tent, would know exactly where you would be sleeping, correct?
Yes.
You were sleeping on the sleeping bag, but not inside.
That's correct, on the sleeping bag.
And was it zipped up or was it open?
It was zipped closed.
And did you see from outside, well, at this time there was a moon out, so you could see a little bit, correct?
From what I can recall, I saw a moon up in the sky.
Was that light coming into the tent at all?
I think so.
About how long were you on top of your sleeping bag before Grant came in?
Felt like a few hours, maybe 2, maybe 3.
And did you know did you have any sign of, strike that, did you see him or a silhouette of him outside of the tent before he came in?
No, I didn't.
When Grant came in, he unzipped the opening part way.
Yes.
And then he went to, where did he go in the tent once he came in?
He was standing towards my left side.
Did he go towards his sleeping bag?
No.
Did he have a light with him?
No.
Now you say that you, about 30 seconds after he came in, he lunged at you.
Seconds after he came in, he stood there watching me.
And how long did he stand there watching you?
Felt like 30 seconds.
You indicated that you do have some hearing. Did you hear him make any noise?
No.
When he was standing there, you could just see a silhouette of him, correct?
Yes, the silhouette.
And then he lunged towards you with a fist, correct?
Yes, with a fist.
And it was so fast that, it was very fast, correct?
Yes, it seemed to be very fast. Very fast.
So did he fall on top of you?
No, his body did not fall onto my body.
So he went to lunge towards you, but he was able to stop himself from falling on you.
Yes, because my arms were up, and with my right arm and my left arm, somehow that stopped him.
So with your arms, you were able to prevent him from falling on you.
Yes, that's correct.
And at the same time, you said that you felt a cut on your right pinky.
Yes.
So you're holding, him up with your hands so he doesn't fall on you.
I wasn't exactly holding him up, no.
Well, his body was over your body.
Yes.
And was he on his knees or was he on his feet?
He just dived on me.
He dived on you, but he didn't make any contact with your body, with his body.
Okay, what I mean is torso. So what I'm trying to say is that his torso never touched my torso.
Because you had your hands up in front of you,
Right?
and that prevented him from his torso touching your torso?
Right.
Then, after you felt the cut on your right hand, then you grabbed his right wrist.
I felt the cut from his fist.
Did you,
One moment. For the interpreter. And then my hand slid down to his wrist.
so you felt that the cut on your right hand, and then after that, your hand slid down to his right wrist.
I believe so, yes.
And then you were able to twist his wrist so he dropped whatever he was holding.
No, I never, no, okay. That's not exactly it.
Well, you twisted his wrist,
Yes,
and that made the knife drop out of his hand.
from what I experienced and saw, yes.
So, and then at that point, you were able to throw Grant over onto your left side.
I don't think throw would be the right word.
Okay, you pushed him over to your left side.
It's still the wrong word.
Well, he fell over on your left side.
Yes,
So he just fell on his own?
no, I pulled him down to my left
Okay. And you had indicated that Grant,
from holding his wrist.
you had indicated Grant was pretty, not very strong, was he?
He was very underweight.
And you're a pretty strong person yourself.
I'm a 160-pound guy. I'm average.
Well, you outweighed him, that's for sure.
Yes,
But you felt like Grant was weak and you were strong.
yes,
And that's why you were able to overpower him.
yes.
At that time, Grant is on the ground to your left.
Yes,
And then you then the next action you took is you grabbed outside the tent to get the rock.
I leaned.
You leaned outside the tent. How far, what part of your body was outside the tent?
My torso was never outside of the tent.
Was your head outside the tent?
Enough to see the rock. Yeah.
Well, could you see the rock?
That's how I took it.
It was dark out. How could you see the rock?
I could see the shape of it.
And the rock was on the very edge of the tent corner, correct?
Yes.
Now you said that you did not have any kind of spikes to hold down the tent.
There were no sparks.
Well, did you always use rocks to hold down the tent when you were traveling with Grant?
Sometimes.
And what would be the reason that you would use the rocks to hold down the tent?
Well, because we didn't have the spikes. There were no spikes there.
Whose tent was it?
Grant's.
There is, what was to hold down the tent at the corner, what did you put the rock on?
On the spike hole.
And so there was a hole for where the spike was to go. Was there anything else at the end of the corner of the tent?
The tent pole, the strap, something like that.
And what kind of strap?
You know, where the spike hole goes on, there's like a strap with a hole in it.
And where did you get these rocks that you used to hold down the tent?
They were all over the place.
Were they at that particular campsite?
I found some near a trail, near the river. They were all over the place, basically.
Well, did you have to go to several different places to collect these rocks?
I looked for the right rock.
So where did you get these 4 rocks that you put down to hold the tent in place?
From the area, from that place.
Was it from the specific campsite you were in?
From the campgrounds, nearby the campsite, yes.
Did you get any rocks from the riverbed or the river bar?
One.
And did they have to, what was the qualifications for a rock that would work for that purpose?
A flat surface about this big so that it could hold the hole better, the whole area. It couldn't be malformed. The rock needed to kind of look more brick shaped
And how heavy would it have to be?
The weight of a brick?
And would you need two hands or one hand to hold it?
One.
When you, after you, so you leaned out to get the rock from the corner of the tent, and then you dragged it back into the tent, correct?
I didn't drag it.
Just to be clear, your head is outside the tent, your arm is outside the tent, but not your body.
I'm not sure if my head was outside of the tent. I had the ability to see it though because it was right there.
So you're saying it was easy for you to grab that rock.
My arm was long enough.
And did you have to move forward in the tent at all to get that rock?
I leaned forward.
Once you grabbed the rock, you brought that back in, and you saw Grant getting up.
Getting up on what?
Was he trying to stand up?
Stand up?
Right, was he he had fallen down, correct?
He was not standing up.
When you brought the rock back in to the tent, was he still on the ground?
No.
Where was he?
He was on his fours, all fours, knees and hands, crawling.
Crawling towards you or away from you?
I don't know.
So he was on all fours. His hands were on the ground.
Something like that, I guess.
And his knees were on the ground.
Well, yeah, for sure his knees were on the ground.
And he was sideways towards you, correct? He was not looking straight at you.
No.
Then you brought half.
No.
Okay. Did you want to say anything else about that?
I don't want any misunderstandings about that. I don't want any misunderstandings. Can you ask the question again? I just want to make sure I didn't misunderstand.
I have a read back on that. Make sure it's accurate.
Last question, sir.
I just don't want any misunderstandings. If you could read it back.
Looking sideways towards you, correct? Not looking straight at you.
That's not how it was.
when you came back into the tent with the rock, you were on your knees?
No, I was on my hip. I was on my hip.
On which hip?
My right hip.
And then Grant was on your left?
Grant was on the farthest side of the tent.
Okay, so at that point, he was close to his sleeping bag?
Something like that.
And he was on all fours?
It looked like that.
And then you hit him with the rock on the left side of his head.
Yes.
That caused him to fall.
Yes.
So he was down on the ground at that point.
He fell, yes.
At that point, you were very upset about what he had tried to do to you.
Upset isn't really a little bit not the way I would describe it.
Would you describe it like seeing red?
Like my body acted on its own. Like there was no room for thought.
Because you were angry.
No.
So you weren't angry at all?
That's not the main emotion I was feeling, no.
Were you feeling rage?
No.
Were you feeling happy?
No.
Did you told the Detective Kreitzer that you saw red after that first blow?
After the first blow? What?
After you hit him the first time, you then saw red, you were upset, and then you hit him 4 or 5 more times.
No.
So, after you hit him the first time, then Grant fell, and then you hit him 4 or 5 more times on the left side of the head, correct?
Correct.
After that first blow, he never got up.
He fell.
He never got up from that fall, correct?
Never.
He was just lying there, and then you hit him in the head at least 4 or 5 more times.
Not exactly.
You hit him, did you, Did you hit him in a different part of his body?
No.
So each time you hit him, you were aiming for his head.
Yes.
And you could have hit him in the arm or in the back, correct?
Yes, I could have.
And each time you swung your arm way back so you could hit him with extreme force, correct?
Not at my full capability. It was more like throwing a baseball, basically.
So you were not using your full strength.
Well, I put my whole life behind it. Yeah, I was using my full strength.
Okay. And I know you can't hear, but you can hear some sound. Was Grant,
I definitely can't hear.
you can hear some things?
No.
Okay. You could, I thought you did a demonstration earlier where you clapped in front of your ear and then you said you could hear that.
Yes.
So, did you hear Grant screaming or crying out or anything?
Nope.
How loud does a sound have to be for you to be able to hear it?
I don't know.
Your demonstration was you could clap in front of your ear and you could hear that, but you couldn't hear a click if you snapped your fingers, correct?
That's correct. Can't hear snapping fingers, but I can hear a clap.
So that at any time when you were hitting Grant with the rock, did you hear him make any noise whatsoever?
Nope, I didn't hear anything.
After you hit him for the last time, then you saw him, did you see his body move in any way?
Yes, he did move.
And was it a voluntary move or an involuntary move? If you could
Objection
tell.
calls for speculation.
Sustained, you can rephrase that.
How did he move?
At what point are you referring to?
After you finished hitting him in the head?
Like this.
Okay, so you were holding out your hands, just to describe it for the record, you were holding out your hands and you were shaking both hands like they were trembling.
Yes, trembling motions like this, yes.
Did you take that as a threat?
After that last blow, no.
At that time, Grant was still breathing.
Yes,
And you could have gone and gotten help. Maybe he would be alive.
theoretically, I could have.
Now there were, when you first arrived at camp, you said that there were some people in one camp over from where you were.
Yes, they were one camp over on the right side. It was, I don't know if it was a camper or a tent, but there were people, maybe 2, maybe 3 women, I don't know.
And did you run over to their camp to get help?
No.
And there were other people in the campground as well.
Far away, yeah.
Okay, so but the people closest to where you were, maybe how long would it take you to get over there, you think? 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah, theoretically, I could have run.
Well, what if you had walked? How long would it have taken to get to the next camp?
I'm not sure.
Would it be like within 5 minutes?
Probably.
At some point, when you said you put a towel or a blanket around Grant's head,
It was a sheet.
a sheet. And what was the purpose of that?
To stop the bleeding.
Did you wrap it like a tourniquet?
No.
And then after that, how long was it before did you do anything else after that point when he had the sheet wrapped around his head?
I just wrapped his head with the sheet.
And this was, and then at some point, you realized that he had died.
Yes.
So you just basically sat there until he died.
I wrapped him up and then, I don't know, maybe it was like 15 seconds and then he died.
Now, after he died, you said you were very, paranoid, upset, didn't know what to do.
Somewhat, not exactly.
Well, what was your emotion at that time?
When the rock went into his head, and he was shaking, the emotion I felt right at that time, there were actually two emotions. First was, oh no, I'm in deep trouble. And second was relief that the monster who's trying to eat me up isn't there anymore, something of that sort, that type of relief. And then I wrapped his head because I didn't want to be in deep trouble. But then within a few seconds later, he died. And my heart was pounding. Seriously, it was pounding so hard. I was getting cramps in my stomach. I couldn't hold my urine, my pee. I didn't pee my pants, but it was hard for me to contain myself, and my heart was pounding. I don't know the word to even describe that feeling. Was it fear, distress? I don't know, I never felt that before. I don't know if I can give you the right word to describe it.
So your thoughts were basically, I'm glad Grant's gone because he was a monster.
Objection, argumentative.
Could you say your statement again, please?
Was your feeling that you were glad Grant's gone because he was a monster?
Glad? I don't know if glad's the right word.
And then you also had a concern about that if you were going to be in trouble.
Yes, big time.
So you said that you thought about calling 911?
That was never on my mind.
So what was on your mind was getting out of there as quickly as possible?
My thought was leave.
Well, let's see. You have, you were in contact with your mother, correct?
No,
You weren't able to contact anybody else except Lee?
I didn't contact anyone.
Your thought was, the only place where I need to go is to Lee's ranch.
That's correct.
And get there as soon as possible.
Something like that, yeah.
Now, after Grant died, that's when first you tried to put him in his sleeping bag, correct?
Yes,
And that didn't cover his head.
right.
So then you decided to put him in your sleeping bag.
Correct.
So that his entire body would be concealed.
Yes,
So after he died, that's what you did.
yes,
And then the next thing is you went to go you went outside the tent and went to the park.
No.
What is the next thing you did after putting him in the sleeping bag?
You've got the order wrong.
What is the order then?
After what point?
After he knew he was dead, and you wrapped the blanket or the sheet around his head.
Let me try and remember. I put the sheet around his head. I realized he was dead. So I walked to the river with the rock, and I threw the rock into the river.
And how long did that take you?
I don't remember.
Well, how far away was the path from the campground?
It wasn't that far. Maybe, I don't remember exactly, but maybe from that wall to that wall, from the side wall to the other side wall here, or I don't remember.
And it was down a trail?
Yes, it was a trail.
Did you use any kind of light to get down there?
No,
Then you came back up, and then you
that's correct.
went back into the tent.
That's right.
And that's when you put him in the sleeping bag.
It wasn't immediately that I came in that I do that.
What were you doing around the campsite before you came back in to the tent?
Nothing, I just went into the tent.
So you went back into the tent and then you put him in the sleeping bag, correct?
Not immediately, no.
So did you just sit there in the tent with him?
No?
You were anxious to get out of there, correct?
Oh yes, I knew I needed to get out as quickly as possible.
So you need to, you had decided that you were not going to try to contact anybody for help, correct?
I had no phone.
Then where you did have a phone, you say it didn't work.
I had no service.
So when did you put Grant in the sleeping bag?
After I went back into the tent.
And then you put him in the car.
You're missing several things. But, okay, you're missing several points of the process. But Yes. I put it in the car.
Okay, so what am I missing?
I had to take off Grant's pants.
And why did you have to take off his pants?
To look for the keys.
So what was Grant wearing?
He had black or dark colored pants.
And did they have pockets?
That's what I thought. I can't remember very clearly, but I pulled off his pants. I never found the keys in his pants.
Did you check, pat down his pant pockets to see if he had anything in his pants?
Yeah, I did. I patted him down. I took them off. I was looking around. I couldn't find them in his pants.
And when you patted him down, you didn't feel any car keys, did you?
While the pants were on him, I felt nothing.
Well, the car keys were regular car keys with a fob, a plastic disc to open.
I don't know what a fob is.
It was some type of round object, correct? Attached to the keys.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, if you've driven before, correct?
Yes.
And the key, and you saw Grant drive the car.
Yes.
Did it have a key? Was there anything attached to the key?
Yes.
And what was that?
The remote to open the doors and to start the engine, something like that. I don't remember what his key looked like.
So the remote to open the door, is that flat or is it round?
I can't remember.
So you're saying that you were not able to tell whether or not he had the key on his pants, in his pants, other than taking off his pants?
I couldn't find them. I was looking for them.
And that's the only way that you could determine whether or not they were in his pants?
I pulled them off to make sure that I wasn't missing them. I was looking to see if they were there or something.
Well, when you pulled them off, it was still dark in there. Did you have a light at that time?
I had the cheap phone still that could have worked as a light, but I wasn't using it at that time.
And you said that you found Grant's phone. Where did you find that?
I can't remember.
Or was it in the, you said you found,
Give me a second. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
you said you found the key in a sweatshirt outside of the tent?
Yes. Yes.
And was that sweatshirt on the ground?
It was on the ground.
Was the phone in there?
Well, I know I'm not supposed to guess if I'm not remembering. And so Because I'm not supposed to guess, I'm going to say I don't remember.
Well, you left the campground, you did have Brant's phone.
Yes.
When you were packing up the tent, you found a tote, a blue tote to put things in?
Okay.
Is that accurate?
Yes, that was in the trunk.
So you got that out of the trunk, and you packed up, you took the items out of the tent that were in there?
What do you mean by out?
Did you pack up, were there any items or things in the tent other than the sleeping bags?
The sleeping bags, Grant's phone, the sheet, Grant's shoes that I took off. Maybe there were a few more things I don't remember.
Showing you exhibit 87, People's Exhibit 87. Ask you if you take a look at this, if you recognize what's in this photo.
Yeah, sure.
And then we rode down to the kitchen area, and then I said, hey, I got cut from the engine, and then he helped me out.
So Lee didn't really ask you about how you got cut. You told him. That's correct. And you told him, want to know how my pinky finger became like this.
Could you repeat your question?
This is, I'll show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 165 and ask you to read it to yourself and let me know after when you're done.
Okay.
So you told Lee, want to know how my pinky finger became like this. This is going to be a long question. While the road trip with Grant from Mount Shasta engine started to feel funny, RPM bouncing up and down. We pulled over and checked. I put my pinky finger on the engine flywheel belt spinner. Grant was frustrated and mad with the situation and started the engine while my pinky was on the pulley and belt. The belt just seared off my skin. And you're saying that that was all a lie?
Yes.
Later on, you had a conversation with Lee through Facebook or text. And this is on...
Yes, I did.
You told him that you told him that you were done working with Grant.
Yes.
And he asked you, where is Grant?
I don't remember very well about the text, but I think he may have.
And you said he is on way to Los Angeles to see a girl.
Yes.
Now, that answered his question that he had, correct?
I think so.
You continued to tell him, but IDK, if he will actually be able to get her.
I don't remember that part of the text, but I don't recall.
Well, let me show you. This is Exhibit 165, and just read. And read it and then review it and let me know when you're done. All of this.
Starting where exactly? Thank you. Yes, I recognize that.
That conversation continued, and you remember telling Lee that he underestimated me a lot because I'm only 21. But he doesn't understand I have experienced a lot life, way more than him.
Yes, I said that.
And you said, oh well, Grant is history. I wonder how will life lead him? Let's see.
Yes, I said that.
And you knew that Grant didn't have any life to live after that, correct?
Say that again?
You knew that when you made that statement to Lee, you knew that Grant was dead.
Yes.
You had several conversations with Lee about Grant that were lies.
They weren't all lies. Half truths, half lies. It was all so confusing.
Well, were the statements you were making to him confusing?
They were mixed half-truths and half-lies. It was all mixed in. There was a truth, there was a lie. There was a truth, there was a lie. It was all mixed in.
The important part, that what you didn't tell him, was that Grant was dead.
Nope, I never told him that.
Ms. Prentice, it's 3 o'clock. We're going to take our afternoon recess for 15 minutes. Actually about 3:03, so make it till about 3:18. Obviously, in the meantime, do not discuss the case. Which is like go over back, so we'll reconvene in People versus Fisher. Defendant counsel, interpreters, and jury are present. Ms. Cronish, you may continue.
Thank you. So when you, your whole point of getting to Lee's was to be able to get help from him.
Yes.
And from the very start that you had contact with him after arriving, you lied to him.
Yes.
And you continued to lie to him for several more days.
Not exactly lies, more like not telling, just not telling.
So not telling Lee that Grant was dead.
That's right.
And you did tell him from the first story you told about him, Grant going to LA, then you said that you had fight up in Humboldt and that Grant ran off.
That's right.
And then you told him he asked you several times what happened to Grant or where is Grant, and you continued to tell him that he had run off and you didn't know where he was.
I don't remember him asking me several times.
There was a time when you had a conversation with Lee about the vehicle, Grant's vehicle. You told him, Lee was concerned about having that vehicle, possible stolen vehicle, on his property, right?
I told him, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes.
I need to clarify.
You had a conversation with Lee about Grant's vehicle being on Lee's property.
Yes.
And you had a conversation with Lee about what to do with the vehicle.
I didn't.
You didn't have any conversation about what to do with the vehicle with Lee?
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you said that I had asked him, oh yeah, he had asked me, and we did talk about it.
And it was decided that you would clean out the vehicle and then drop it off somewhere.
Yes, that was what Lee had suggested to me to do.
So when you were cleaning out the vehicle, you sent Lee a picture of rotting meat.
Yes,
And you said that there were maggots on the meat, and what should I do with this?
I don't remember I said, what should I do with this? I don't remember that part, no.
But you made a point of showing Lee the rotting meat from the car.
Yes,
And that was to explain the smell from the car.
yes,
But you knew that the smell from the car was from Grant's body.
yes,
You asked Lee to borrow his ATV.
yes. I asked Lee if I could borrow his ATV to clean it up. I remember that.
And you wanted to clean out the car.
Clean it up from the stuff.
Well, including Grant's body.
Yes,
Did Lee offer to go with you?
No.
And you went up, you put Grant's body on the ATV on Lee's property and dumped his body.
Yes.
You also, I just want to clarify, the phone that you had at the time that you were communicating with Lee at the ranch, was that the phone that didn't have cell service?
Yes.
And so you needed Wi-Fi to use it to send messages?
Right.
Was there Wi-Fi throughout Lee's property?
Only at the kitchen.
So only at the kitchen was where you could send messages?
Well, the Wi-Fi, the router was near the kitchen in that area. So I would say that there would be a radius of maybe 50 feet from that. I don't know.
Now, you also, when you first arrived on Lee's property, you saw messages on Grant's phone from Melissa, correct?
Yes.
And these were messages about expressing concern about where Grant was, why hasn't she heard from him?
Yes.
So you sent her a message back as Grant. Correct?
Yes.
And you told her you would be stuck on Lee's ranch with Mav, that's you, for probably 2 days. Correct?
Yes.
And then you put cuz, C-U-Z, my brakes, car brakes are fucked up.
Yes.
Mav said he can fix it once the parts arrive in 2 days.
Yes.
And you sent her this message knowing her concern about Grant's well-being.
I don't understand.
You sent this to her so she would think that Grant was okay.
That's right.
And so that she would think that Grant would come and would be seeing her 2 days later.
Right.
Just want to go back for a minute in regards to the tent when you were packing up the tent. You said that you found a knife in the tent,
Yes.
and it was a small knife, correct?
This big. It had a handle. Maybe 8 inches total.
And the handle was bigger than the blade.
From what I remember, I think they would have been equal size or similar. Maybe it was a little bigger, I don't remember.
And you took that knife out of the tent and you put it in the car?
Yes.
You did not put it in the blue tote box, did you?
I didn't put it there, no.
And that's where you would put everything else, other than that knife.
Yes, everything else was in there, except for the knife. I don't remember, there were other things. I can't say there was except just the knife, but I put it in the car instead of the tote.
And whose knife was that?
I have no idea.
Were there any other knives in the car that you knew about?
No,
Had you seen Grant with that knife?
no,
Did you use a knife to open packages, deli meat, anything like that?
I never used the knife the whole trip. I never saw the knife during the whole camping trip.
So, you, after leaving Grant's body up on Lee's property, then you went out to dinner that night with Lee and Mike Pucci.
Yes,
And there were other individuals there as well.
yes. Heather and Jim and Chai and his family, I think. I'm not sure.
And you told Mike Pucci that you had a fight with Grant and that he had run off.
No, Lee told him for me.
And so when there was a time after the dinner that you went to the police station?
Yes,
And you said Mike Pucci told you to stay in the car and he would go talk to the police.
something like that.
And you knew he was going to report this assault of Grant assaulting you and running off, correct?
Yes, that was the story that he had believed in.
Well, did you tell him that in actuality Grant was dead?
No, I didn't do that.
You said later on that you tried to turn yourself in to the police in Lake County, but they wouldn't take you.
I don't understand that. Could you repeat that question?
When you went with Mike Pucci to the police station, were you trying to turn yourself in?
Yes,
And you were trying to turn yourself in for murder?
well, I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Were you trying to turn yourself in for killing Grant?
If they came and asked me, I probably would have told them that.
Well, if you had gone up to the police door with Mike, then you would have been able to tell them that.
But I sat in the car.
Did Mike Pucci say you were not allowed to come to the police door with him?
No, he didn't say I wasn't allowed. He just said, hey, wait for a minute and I'll take care of this. So I stayed and waited and watched.
You knew at that time that Mike did not know that Grant was dead.
That's right.
So you could have gone up with Mike and told the police officer through Mike that you killed Grant.
Yes, that was a possibility.
But you didn't do that
No, I didn't do that.
because you didn't want to be found out at that point.
No.
No, you didn't want, is that, no. So if you had wanted to really come clean, that was your opportunity, correct?
Yes.
And you did not take that opportunity.
No, I didn't.
And when you were driving back with Mike Pucci to his place, you went past Grant's car.
Yes.
And you told Mike Pucci that you sent a picture of Grant's car to Grant so he could know where it was.
Yeah, I think so.
And that was a lie.
No, that was the truth.
So you sent a picture of the location where the car was to Grant.
I did send it to his Facebook account.
And of course, you knew at that time that Grant was dead
Yes.
and that he would never receive that message.
That's right.
When you said that you started receiving, when you got to Mike Pucci's, that all of a sudden you got strike up. When you arrived to Mike Pucci's, he gave you your phone back.
Yes.
And it was working now.
Yes.
And you saw all the messages about Grant and you and Grant being missing on that phone.
Yes.
You were very concerned about all the social media in the deaf community about wondering where Grant was, correct?
And more than that,
Well, what else were you afraid of?
the rumors had already started that I had killed Grant, and the word was out, and many of his friends were sending messages saying, I don't remember exactly, but there were a lot of messages that weren't great things to have to see.
And you said that you were afraid of the people who were sending these messages about what they're saying about you?
Yeah, I was very afraid.
Well, these are individuals that live all around the United States.
Some were also in California.
And they didn't indicate in those messages that they knew where you were.
Everybody knew I was in Lake County.
But you had, when you were with Mike Gucci, you were no longer in Lake County.
That's correct.
So because of those messages, did you felt that that was a personal threat to you, that somebody from one of those messages was going to come after you and hurt you?
Not only me, but yes.
Who else who else did you think they were going to hurt?
My family, maybe?
So that's at that point you decided to go to Mexico?
That's correct.
And when you arrived in Mexico, you posted, or you sent out a picture to Scotty Jackson of you arriving in Mexico.
Yes.
And you had a big smile on your face.
Yes.
And that message got out to the deaf community as well.
Yes.
You also sent out messages to the deaf community as Zayden Bujay. That's one of your names that you use on Facebook or other social media.
Yes.
I'm going to show you Exhibit 174 and 175. I'd ask that you take a look at these and read them and let me know when you're done. Do you recognize those messages, social media messages?
Yes.
And did you write them?
Yes.
And you sent them out to Deaf World?
Not Deaf World.
What group did you send it out to?
It wasn't a group.
What kind of, is it, what kind of social media is it? Who is it going out to?
Onto Facebook.
I would request 174 and 175 be received.
Submitted.
They are received.
So you sent out a message, very fucked up situation. He threatened me and stuff. He made me piss off. We got into fight, but Grant is thin and weak. I want to fight easy. Then there's a question, did you kill Grant? And you wrote, but I used rock to punch his head, and I cracked his skull. His brains splatter all over the floor. He died. So yeah, I did kill Grant. And so you wrote all that, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked, where are you at right now? And you said, guess, LOL. Correct?
Yes.
And you were asked if you were in Mexico. Is that where you were?
Yes.
Exhibit 175, you wrote, I just zipped up his body inside sleeping bag and put in car. I'm warning you, dead body stinks. Worst smell I ever did smell in all my life. I left the body in car for 3 days. Then his skin became yellow and green with a lot of worms. Did you write that?
Yes.
And you posted that on social media.
No.
You didn't post that on Facebook?
No, that was through Facebook Messenger. It wasn't on my Facebook page or on my wall. That was through Messenger.
And who did you send it out to?
Emily.
When you arrived in Mexico, you had a messages back and forth with you and Scotty Jackson. Yes. And he convinced you to let him know where you put Grant's body. Yes. And there was a detailed description of where you would put Grant's body, and that was written by you, correct? Yes. You said that when you were in Mexico, that you were suicidal.
Yes.
And you were sending messages like that out on your Facebook page and to other individuals, correct?
I didn't post it, but to people, yes.
Or you sent it to people that would post it, correct?
I don't know.
You were concerned about the posts and the rumors that were on social media about this, what had happened to Grant, correct?
I was very concerned for my own safety.
And so you could have just not posted posts like, did you think that posts like dead bodies stink would be, get people on your side on the case?
I didn't post that. I sent that in a private message through Messenger.
Okay, to who?
Emily.
So you wanted Emily to know that you think that dead bodies stink.
I don't remember what I was thinking at the time.
You were also, messaging your mother.
Yes.
Going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 176. I'm going to show you this 176 at Axe Street. I'll review it and let me know when you're done. Do you recognize those messages in People's Exhibit 176?
Yes.
And these are between you and your mother.
Yes.
And this is when you were in Mexico?
Yes.
And you were planning on going further into Mexico, correct?
Yes.
And she asked you, yes, what did Grant do to you that made you kill him? You said it was never your fault. Did Grant hurt you? And you said his threats, he said he knew where my son was. Is that correct?
Yes.
You said, your mother said, yes, you did this for defense, and you said he knew where my home was. He tried to hurt Emily with Caden. I killed him. I crushed his skull on left side of head with rock N and B. The body is somewhere in Humboldt Forest. Is that correct?
Yes, I said that.
Now, at that time, when you were in Mexico, the body was actually in Lake County.
Yes.
And when you had the fight in Humboldt County in the park, did Grant threaten your son and Emily?
I'm sorry, what was that?
When you had the fight with Grant, the argument with Grant, did he threaten your son and Emily?
Not directly, no.
So in this messages with your mom, you were referring to the problems that Grant had with Emily when he was staying in Elko with you?
Yes.
I would ask 176, do you receive?
Submitted.
Received.
When you were interviewed in San Diego, but then with the interpreter, she had told you at the beginning to let her know if you didn't understand anything, or if she was not understanding you, correct?
Yes.
And there were several times that she sought clarification from you.
Yes.
And there were several times where you clarified something with her.
No.
You never clarified anything that you said to her?
I clarified, okay, when the interpreter was struggling to understand me, I clarified myself. detective, Kreitzer, had said something that I didn't understand, the interpreter would then translate it for me. There was no way for me to see if the translation was right or wrong. The only message that I got was from the interpreter.
You were able to clarify several times with her what she was telling you and what you were telling her.
Not what she was telling me, because there's no way for me to hear the original statement from the detective from Kreitzer's mouth. I couldn't hear that. She was able to clarify, I was able to clarify my message when she was struggling to understand me. It was a one-way, not a two-way clarification.
You were able to clarify, though, what you were saying to her, correct?
Only if the interpreter asked for clarification. I had to trust the interpreter.
And you indicated that there is no such thing as a 100% interpreter that is able to accurately interpret 100% of the time.
Of course, there's not.
One second, Mama. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Redirect, Mr. Fleming?
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Fisher, you talked about, you said Mr. Whitaker was, told you he was going to do some, he called it calibration. And again,
Yes.
what is calibrate?
It's a foreign film that we had watched on Netflix.
Is
In
this
Elko.
some movie you chose to watch, or Mr. Whitaker chose to watch?
Oh yeah, no, Grant had suggested that I watch the movie.
Why do you suggest it?
He said, oh, it's very good.
Okay. What is Calibrate about?
Well, I'll summarize it. It might be a longer answer, but I'll give you the best summary. So it's about these two guys, and they go to some rural town in Scotland, out in another country, and they went hunting for deer. And then one of the guys saw the deer, and he was ready to take his shot. But the deer moved his head a bit, and unfortunately, there was a little boy behind the deer. And he got shot in the head, and the little boy died. And his father got really angry, and he saw the hunter, and he was going to shoot, but then luckily, the guy who, in error, had shot, his partner shot the father. So both now the father and the son are dead.
And before you go much further, let me ask you, does any consequences come to these people as a result of having shot these two people?
Yes, the town was very angry at the two, and they wanted revenge on them for having killed one of their own from the town. So the group of people went after the two of them, but the smarter of the two, or a smart guy from the town, told them, hey, you know, if you kill your partner, we'll let you live. And so then the shooter, they said they could let him go, but then secretly they sent spies to follow him to his home. And then in the end, that guy, you know, he got home to his family and he turned around and saw the people there ready to kill him. So that's how the movie goes.
So, in other words, this person's family becomes threatened on account of what he's done.
That was the movie. The whole family then died.
Okay, so the whole family died, so they befell violence because of this person's actions.
Right.
And so when Mr. Whitaker told you he was going to do some calibration, what was your understanding of that?
Exactly that movie, like that he would do something like in the movie that we had watched together, and it was obvious to me that he was going to do something. I'm going to do some calibrate shit to people who fuck around with me. I was like, okay, whoa.
So I want to back up a bit to that second time you were at Mike Fucci's, and then Grant came there, and you decided to go on a camping trip with Grant.
Yeah, Grant wanted to have me go with him, and I said, okay, that I would join him.
Okay. You said that you were considering not having sort of like a partnership or working relationship with Grant at that point, correct?
Yes.
Did you consider yourself to still be friends at that point in time?
Not really. As time went by, I saw how Grant reacted to other people who didn't do what he wanted them to do. And I started to fear him. I wanted to get away from him. But I also felt stuck because if I were to get away from him, I knew that he would get mad. So I had like this fear of him because of his anger, but if I got away from him, then it would be also worse fear because I would make him mad. So I felt like I was stuck.
Why didn't you just tell Mike Fucci, hey, look, I don't like this guy. And frankly, Mike Fucci indicated to you, he didn't like him either, right?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. Well, why didn't you just tell Mike Fucci you didn't like this guy and hey, you know, if he comes by, tell him I'm not here.
It's not that easy. I was very stuck with him. I was very, very stuck with him. One little thing that would happen. Like he would do any little thing, and that would give him a hint of me getting away from him. He would be very easily upset. So like with the ice skating, I told him that night, I said, I don't want to go ice skating with you. I'd rather go, I don't know, with Fuchi. And Grant was like, his face just went like to this dark kind of, I could see that he was unstable. And I happened to be with him so that he wouldn't be mad.
Well, Mr. Fisher, let's ask some more general questions. So, Mr. Whitaker, he told you he was involved in like lots of ranching operations and stuff, or did lots of ranching work. Did you find out, did any of that really turn out to be true?
I never found out. I just believed what he said.
Okay. Did he have any, you had this business plan, did he have any, like, money or resources or anything that could help you with achieving this dream that you guys talked about?
Not really, nothing that I knew. Wasn't quite sure how it would pan out. I just thought that I would follow him and he knew what he was doing.
Did Mr. Whitaker appear to you to have, like, a home that he lived in, or a home?
No, definitely not.
Or a steady job?
Oh, definitely not.
And you said that he threatened your family at some point?
The biggest threat was really different. There were quite a few things. There was no one direct thing. It was mostly the calibration that we kind of argued over, but it was like Emily would argue with Grant about smoking weed. And then Grant got so mad, and he said, I'm beyond pissed off. He tried to trip Emily while she was holding my son, and then they would end up falling on the floor. It was
Okay.
all these things that added up.
So he quarreled with the mother of your child, right?
Yes,
And you said he was controlling and manipulative and bossy.
who did you say said that?
You described him as he was like a boss, and he was controlling to you, is that correct?
I never really stepped up. My mom warned me, but I never told Grant, hey, you're trying to control me, you're manipulating me. I never said that. I just shut myself down.
And when you were at Mr. McCarroll's with Grant, you found that you believed that Grant was actually being somewhat deceptive to you about what Mr. McCarroll was wanted of you, correct? So, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at, and I don't think really has been made clear to people, is what was the attraction with Grant Whitaker? I mean, this guy sounds like an awful, awful person to be around, and yet you spent so much time with him, and you did so much stuff with him. Why was that?
The story is, I got in touch with him back in May of 2018. We got in touch online and stayed in touch over a year, and I emotionally supported him along. He was going through some hard times. He talked about suicide, shooting himself.
Objection, non-responsive.
Again, just ask it, sorry about that, Karen. Just describe for us, please, why you were friends with Grant Whitaker for so long.
The fact was that Grant was the one who was attached to me.
Okay. So you felt maybe he also benefited from being friends with you too.
He benefited a lot from me. Yes.
To your mind, you think it became somewhat, it seemed like he was somewhat dependent on you in some way?
Initially, it didn't look that way, but as time went on, oh yeah, big time.
And then did you feel responsible to him in some way because of that?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to clarify at the campground, Ms. Prentice was talking about the tent and the rocks holding it down. Again, how many rocks was it that held down the tent?
There were always 4, because there's only 4 corners, so obviously 4 rocks.
And you talked about the spike hole. And it maybe wasn't clear when you were talking about it that time, but is it true, not true, the hole that the spike goes through is on like a strap of the tent?
That's correct.
And so instead of spikes, you would typically use these rocks to lie on top of the strap?
Correct.
You talked about when Mr. Whitaker came into the tent and you perceived him to move forward to you suddenly, correct?
It wasn't suddenly. He came in slowly. He stood there for about 30 seconds.
Okay. And then he moved towards you.
Yes, he started to dive towards me.
Okay. And then you put your arms up in front of your face.
Yes,
Okay, and you just made a motion of your arms, your hands sort of in front of your face and crossing your arms.
because I'm dominant right, I probably had my right hand out the most. I'm not quite sure exactly what I did with my left hand.
Okay, and you felt the knife, or you felt something cut you, or it felt like a cut, right?
All I felt was something was cold, sharp, metal object slicing my pinky finger. It was immediate, it was really fast.
And then you reacted immediately to that?
Yes, it seemed as though my body responded on its own.
Okay. Responded on its own. So when you say that, can you remember thinking about what you were going to do next?
There wasn't room for thought. All of a sudden, I just responded, I grabbed the rock, I hit him, and that was it, immediate.
Okay, so when you were hitting him, did you have any idea or plan of what you meant to do with that, by that?
No, I wasn't thinking of anything at all.
Okay. And then after you hit that first blow, again, what did Mr. Whitaker do? What happened to Mr. Whitaker?
He fell down onto the far side of the tent.
And how soon was it between the time you struck the first blow and the time you struck the second blow?
Maybe 1 second, 2 seconds. It
Okay.
wasn't that much time. It wasn't slow. It was pretty fast.
So in the 1 to 2 seconds, you think about anything in the 1 to 2 seconds?
No, nothing was on my mind. My body was acting on its own.
In those 1 to 2 seconds, were you weighing whether or not, you'd used enough force on Mr. Whitaker?
Objection leading.
In those 1 to 2 seconds between the first blow and the second blow, can you describe what your emotional state was?
I was scared. I was in mainly fear. My heart was pounding. I believe I was having an adrenaline rush.
And then how many times, do you recall exactly how many times again you struck him after that?
I never counted. There was no way for me to count. It was so fast. All I can remember is the feeling that it might have been maybe 4, maybe 5. I know there was the first blow, and then maybe 4, maybe 5 times after that. All I can remember is what the feeling was at that point.
What caused you to stop?
I felt the rock going into him.
What was it about that caused you to stop?
I realized I had killed him. When I felt the rock going into his skull, I realized I just killed him and I needed to stop.
You said, though, that when after you stopped, he was shaking or trembling, right?
Yes, it was still moving. It was trembling like this. Yes, it was moving.
How long did that continue for?
After the rock went into his skull, maybe his body trembled for like maybe 15 seconds. I don't recall.
Okay. So after that period of time, and was he breathing at that time? Could you tell?
Yes.
Okay. And then he stopped trembling. Right?
Yes, he stopped trembling and then he just stopped moving.
Did he continue to breathe at all?
I'm not a doctor. I couldn't tell. I couldn't hear if he was breathing or not. I just kind of assumed he was dead at that point.
So, did you think there was any chance that he might still be alive?
I did.
Okay. So, what did you do?
That's when I wrapped his head with the sheet. I kept it open around his nose and his mouth, so I wrapped it tightly around the top portion of his head with that sheet over his eyes.
What was the purpose of doing that?
To stop the bleeding.
Okay. And did you observe him at all and try and see if he was still alive at that, determine if he was still alive at that point?
Again, I'm not a doctor. I tried moving or shaking him and he didn't respond. He didn't look like he was alive. So I walked away to throw the rock away.
Okay. So, you waited for some period of time to see if he might still be alive?
I'm not a doctor. I didn't know. I just kind of assumed that he was dead.
Alright. And so how long after you wrapped his head in the towel that you went to go throw the rock away?
Maybe just a few seconds, maybe 10, 15 seconds. Maybe 15 seconds, I don't know.
Okay. And in those 15 seconds, have you had an opportunity to, were you still excited, or have you had an opportunity to calm down?
No, I still had that pounding going on in my chest, and after he stopped moving, I started to feel some relief, but I could feel that my heart was still pounding and I was still shaking and I was still struggling to hold my bladder. I was struggling, but the bladder control, that was difficult. That was during that whole 3, 4, 5 minute period. It was hard to hold my pee.
Your Honor, it's 4:30.
Is this a convenient time for you to stop?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we will adjourn for the evening. Remember, do not talk about the case or about any of the people or any subject involved in it with anyone, including the other jurors. Do not do any research, share information, or talk to each other or to anyone else about the facts of the case or anything else connected with the trial. And do not use any form of electronic or wireless communication to do any of those things either. Do not make up your mind or express any opinion about the case or any issue connected with the trial until after you have discussed the case with the other jurors during deliberations. Thank you very much for your time again today, ladies and gentlemen. Please return Monday morning at 9 a.m. I believe that's November 16th. Have a great weekend.